happy second week of Advent, everyone. I am back. We're back with another creative watercolor project for Advent. You know, the last one was so long. We're going to keep it a little bit shorter today. Creating that Advent calendar was so much fun, but I underestimated how intense that was going to be. So for this second week, I thought, okay, let's go ahead and do something a little bit more simple, but really still grasping the beauty of the season. So I'm going to go ahead, we're going to do a wreath this morning. I always use some sort of something to help me create a circle because I'm always going off center. What I have also here is, if you've been partaking in some of our splatter art, you'll notice I always say the art that we use to cover, the paper that we use to cover, don't ever give that away, because really it's, or throw it away. Use watercolor paper, because we're going to keep building on that and using that beautiful splatter paper. It really creates a lovely backdrop. So let's go ahead and make a wreath. Again, second week of Advent. I will be talking as I create some of my wreaths. So I've got a couple of colors. Really, we're going to do lots of blues and greens, but I do also this time want to add in some of the colors of Advent. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and create a bow, which will make that purple. Since purple, if we were being traditional and using, I believe it's a purple candle for the candle of faithfulness, or this is known as the week of preparation, second week of Advent. So I'm going to just lightly, with my micron pen, do a nice bow here, and I'm going to go ahead and sketch it out, and that way too it will be ready for me. I won't accidentally paint over it, which a lot of times I do. And I have it off to the side. You can do it however you'd like. If you want to go ahead and sketch in a couple of boughs, I should say, for our evergreen wreath. And one of the things I actually was thinking a lot and having a little bit of a hard time coming up, what are we going to do? And I thought, you know, last year I had done some wreaths for Advent, and I thought I'm going to do that too. I don't know of anything when you look at preparation, but also faithfulness this week, of thinking about God's faithfulness to us first and foremost, right? That's how we are even beginning to be faithful to Him, is because He is first faithful. It is part of His character. And that evergreen, that sense of a wreath too, where it goes on and on. You can't really see the beginning or the end of it. So I'm going to get some green right now and get that nice and wet. And with the wreath, what I normally do is I just want to make sure that all of my my stems or my greenery is just pointing the same way. So I will just start to take a very gentle, nice gentle strokes, leaving lots of white space in between, and thinking that this is all the pine. Is it pine? The evergreen, the fir, whatever tree we are using, that evergreen tree. I'm just working my way around the boughs too, which I'm going to add in some brown, and then we'll create our purple ribbon. Now, if you too are doing this any week, you could always, we could really do an Advent wreath. Of course, traditionally you put a candle in each bough per se, and there's a different color, but you could do create an Advent wreath on watercolor, and then do a bow representative, or even put a candle. Maybe we'll do that another week in here with the coordinating color. So I could do purple one week, we could do pink the next week. We're going to leave that for just a minute. Actually, if you want to grab some green and go underneath here where the greenery would be kind of sticking out. The reason being, when we have to be careful when putting purple or pink in too close to the green, because it will turn to brown if it moves together, and we do not want a brown bow, or in this particular one. So I have that first layer down, and you can see even with the splattering is really nice. It's adding a bit of just some, I think, ambiance, I guess, to the painting, and overall a little bit of depth. I'm going to go ahead and take some brown and go right in here where I have my boughs, and we are going to be doing some more details. Now, another option too, as you can see, I have left quite a bit of room around. One of the reasons I like to do that is if perhaps you might want to put some of your, if you have a verse for this week that you are focusing on or meditating on, or that's part of, you know, sermon, it's really nice to add in that verse to your art. And you may be using this too as a journaling or maybe part of your quiet time is you're going to be creating just a piece of art each week and writing out the verse. I find is wonderful. It's very reflective. So I'm running out of my my favorite burnt sienna. So I am adding some sepia, which is darker, and that'll add some just some depth as well. Okay, I'm actually going to do a little bit of splattering as well. Over here in the corner, because a lot of my splatters were blue from another project and I'm not using blue, I want to incorporate some of the colors that we are creating. I'm even going to take a little bit of green over here too. All right, and let's go ahead, let's get some more green, and let's just go ahead and again, adding it, being a little bold this time. Faithfulness, that's a very bold characteristic too, as we're thinking about faithfulness this week, as we're thinking about preparation, our preparation, but then also Advent is looking back and remembering all the preparation and going to Bethlehem, the wise men journey, or the journey of the Mary and Joseph, going through some of those readings this week. I really love the story, just to sink into it every year and see what new thing I haven't noticed before, right? There's always something new to learn. And I just think the faithfulness of God is really speaking to me in a new, fresh way right now. Okay, so we have a very nice wreath going on here, and you can make it as thick as you want. This was one I had made last year, and you can see I had incorporated across that. I think this was Christmas Day project I think that I was doing, but you can see we can take the pen too and add more details there. I'm now going to go ahead and I am going to grab some purple, and I have a magenta on my palette, so I'm going to pick up this magenta, and you know, if you have pink, just add a little bit of blue. If you don't have a purple, you can easily make a nice purple, and I may end up adding a little bit of blue to this one as well. And so I'm not going to color the whole thing in. I am just going around on the outside, and I think I had actually, you're going to laugh about this, I think I had accidentally dipped some brown in here, so let me rinse this color off. The nice thing with watercolor, it's pretty easy to clean up. Oh, that looks a little bit better. If it looks too bold, just get some water, making sure we're leaving some white spaces for where reflection might be. That's really what makes our watercolors dance. And this is the inside of the bow, so I will probably add some blue in there. That way it's going to really look, it's going to pop and really look like we have some depth going on. Okay, so I'm just again moving here, making sure to avoid the greenery so we don't get any brown. And once again, making sure too we're not painting in, it's not coloring, so we don't want to color everything in. And you can allow, because I use the micron pen, sometimes I let that micron pen show off too. I don't feel the need to go exactly in the lines. Okay, I am going to go back here, right in there. I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue. I think I've got some ultramarine. I've got some ultramarine. I'm going to mix that ultramarine in with a bit of the magenta, just not tons. And I'm going to go ahead and add a bit there and right over here. And you can see the difference that makes, right? And just again, some shadowing. And then we're going to leave like that. Now I'm going to take that same blue, add it to the green, and let's do another quick layer over our leaves. Not our leaves, our pine needles, our evergreen. I'm filming this in the morning, and I've got a cup of coffee next to me, and I might need a little bit more. Okay, so I am just doing another layer here. And you can see too where my brown has gotten a little bit blurred in. That's totally fine. I can always let it, when it dries, I can come back and add some more color. And I'm taking some more of that blue-green now. And again, where might the shadows be? I'll just put a little bit down here, a little bit underneath here, and just laying it in. I'm not even doing a lot of detail work, but letting those colors really dance together. And I think the verse we're looking at this week is Isaiah 40, where it talks about the prophecy of, preparing a way in the wilderness, which was, I believe, a prophecy that about John the Baptist. But I love that verse. I love the whole chapter of Isaiah 40. So I'm probably going to come back in here and write that verse in here, and then keep it somewhere all this week where I can easily look at it and meditate it and think about it. I have been slack in my Bible memory, just meditating and memorizing some Bibles verses, so I may do that. Okay, now if you're still here, if you're working with me here, go ahead and get your magenta really wet. So get some magenta, and you can see I've even pulled out a little bit over here, and I'm just getting it pretty wet. And we're not even have painted for 10 minutes. So this one we're able to do pretty quick, which is, again, really nice sometimes to work through a painting fairly quickly. I'm going to take just some splatters with that magenta and just splatter it around. And see, this is very, very festive. I really love this. Again, once it dries, I most likely will come through and I'm going to do another bit of micron pen and do a little, add in some of the details if I so, just to create a little bit more of delineation with between all of the branches, but you certainly don't have to. And it is nice sometimes just to let the watercolor sing all by itself. But this is really lovely. You could easily do this too if you have, again, I have got a bunch of splattering papers, and while this one might be a little bit awkward to create the wreath on, although I could create it up here or even up here and then write the verse underneath. You could even do it on these smaller ones as well and make miniature size ones. These make great bookmarks. If you're doing this as a family, it's great for everyone to do their own. You can write, I had a different painting on the back here, but write things on the back, include it in your journal. The nice thing with the small ones is you can paint on them. I will sometimes write something. I'm double layering here. Write something and then tape them on just one side into my journal, and that way I can flip back and see what I wrote in years ahead. So I hope you enjoyed this. Once we dry, again, I may do some micron pen and maybe do a little bit of color, but not necessarily. You can see the colors actually really go very, very nicely, but I just hope you have a wonderful week in the second week of Advent, celebrating faithfulness, the faithfulness of God, reading more about the journey of Bethlehem and thinking about preparation. And I will see you guys next week for the third Sunday of Advent, and I'm really enjoying this time with you. So I will see you next week.